All right, it's 1:10. We can get started. First, we would like to thank everyone for coming, our panelists as well as our students. Today's event is to give everyone an in-depth view of what a career in AI in the industry looks like. The structure of our panel today will consist of two parts. We've prepared a list of questions to kickstart the panel discussion, but we'll also have a live Q&A session at the end for the second part. So if any questions pop up for anyone, hold on to it, and our panelists will have a chance to answer them during the second half of the event. Before we get started, I'd just like to introduce UTMIST a little bit. So we are a student organization devoted to promoting a vibrant machine learning community on campus and connecting students with graduate students, professors, and industries in the field of machine intelligence to clear the mist around machine intelligence for the eager young minds. So founded in 2017, we ran a series of successful initiatives, including MIST 101, which is an introductory workshop series, and also Discover AI Challenge alongside Microsoft, the guest speaker series, technical workshops, paper reading, paper reproduction teams, and applied machine learning projects. So our team now consists of several grad and undergrad students and reaches a community of over 950 registered members. And we have a Discord server dedicated for all people interested in machine learning. I believe the joining link will be posted at the very end. So for those interested, our mentors also help resolve questions that you may have via our Discord help channels. And for beginners in machine learning who are short on experience but have a great passion to learn, we have the study groups and paper reading groups to help you advance further. These are just a sneak peek into the whole pool of opportunities that UTMIST brings to you. So without further ado, let's meet our panelists. We have today Shashank, currently an AI resident at Facebook AI Research. And from Alta ML, we have Jenny, an ML team lead, and Mansoor, a senior ML engineer. And Sheikh is a lead AI architect at IBM, DB2 database products. And also we have our data scientist, Dalia from Bell. So now I will turn it over to you guys to introduce yourselves a little bit more in depth. We have some slides in the upcoming, yep. So Shashank, take it away.
Thanks, Lisa, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Hi, I'm Shashank. I work as an AI resident at Facebook AI Research in Menlo Park. And before I started here, I was a master's student at the University of Guelph and Vector Institute in Toronto, Ontario. And I also have spent some time during my master's doing a bunch of other things. So I taught this course, Learn AI, at the University of Toronto. I feel like I see some names from Learn AI here. And then I worked as sort of a consultant for the Next AI startup incubator in Toronto. And my work is mostly related to computer vision research. So I work on reasoning, explainability, and out of distribution generalization in computer vision.
That sounds really exciting. All right, Jenny.
Thanks, Lisa. So I've been in the industry working in the data science field for the past 7 years. I'm mainly focusing on machine learning, but also BI reporting and some just more basic data analytics and product development. And at the moment, I'm a team lead, and I lead a team of 5 associate machine learning developers at Alta ML. Before joining here, I had experience in startup and large corporation, and my background is more on my bachelor's in electrical engineering and my master is in information systems. So that's about my background, and I'll pass this to the next. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Jenny. Mansoor.
Thanks, Lisa. Hey everyone, my name is Mansoor. I'm a senior machine learning developer at a company named Alta ML. I have around 4 years of experience in industry. I I started working on chatbot projects. So my main specialization is natural language processing, and I actually got my job working on chatbots. And then I got excited into things like ML ops and explainable AI in general. So these are the kind of the trends that are like kind of been recently being hot trended. Yeah, excited to be here today.
Excited to have you. Hey, Sheikh.
Hi, my name is Sheikh Khader. I'm really excited to meet you all today. So I have been with IBM close to 16 years now, and the last 5 years has been focused on machine learning. So right now I lead some engineering projects for IBM DB2 database products. So we're bringing machine learning to improve the database's functionality, as well as also bringing AI capabilities for the users of the database to build and operationalize their machine learning pipeline. So I did my master's from University of Waterloo in computer science, and also I'm currently doing a part-time PhD in machine learning with from the York University. Right.
Thank you. Last but not least, Alia.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Yeah, so as you can see, I am currently work at Bell in the Bell the Network Big Data and AI team, support Bell TV and media projects. And before that, I have my economics degree from McGill, and then I did a master's in data science at Ryerson. Also worked in the research lab with several hands-on projects with Toronto Police Services, Statistics Canada. And I do teach also undergrad and certificate data science courses. And mainly my interest is in machine learning is data mining and automating exploratory analysis to uncover patterns in the data and add business value to the organizations. That's my main passion, but of course, I do also work on predictive analytics as well.
Thank you, Dalia, and to the rest of our panelists as well for taking time to join our event today. I guess then we will move right into topic number 1. So first we'll dive into you guys' general experience in your AI career in the industry. So let's start with Shashank. The first question to kick us off, how would you describe what artificial intelligence is to someone with no experience in the field? And a common question that we get a lot is like, what is the difference between machine learning and AI?
Yeah, I think that those are really broad questions. Artificial intelligence, I would say, is any system that exhibits intelligent behavior. So the sort of behavior we usually associate with humans. That's what I would say artificial intelligence is. This behavior could be programmed or it could also be learned. And artificial intelligence, I would say it consists of like a lot of subfields. So like data analytics, computer vision, robotics, all of these are like subfields of artificial intelligence. And machine learning, I would say, is a subset of AI. Machine learning are in particular those systems which learn from experience. So they are not necessarily programmed to be programmed to demonstrate artificial intelligence, but they learn it over time through data.
Thank you, Shashank. That's very insightful, and hopefully everyone now has a clear idea of what AI is. So then let's go around our panelists today and just quickly talk about why you decided to pursue a career in AI, and how did your maybe like earlier career choices lead you to where you are now? Let's start with Jenny.
Thanks, Lisa. So this is a very interesting. So I started working as a data analyst 7 years ago. That's even before I was thinking about the technology like machine learning or AI, things like that. My first career, I did build with some rule-based models that I wouldn't call that like machine learning or AI at that moment. Having said that, I did really enjoy learning things online and take a lot of online courses. And because I was already working and there are a lot of like data set, a lot of project I was able to expose into. So I did started to work on some machine learning project based on the online courses I took. And the manager basically created a department because of it. And I did kind of share my findings and the model and the result to him. So that was how I got into AI. So I pretty much had a career first, and I had the manager wanting to give me the job before the position was there. So it was like a 6-month process for me doing it before I had a title. But then once you have the title, you kind of open up your machine learning career afterwards. So that's kind of my answer to this question. Not really answering it, but that's my journey.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. It's very interesting. What about Mr.? I know that you guys are both are from Alta ML. So, Mr., do you have a similar experience?
For getting into the AI industry?
Yeah.
So interesting fact. I joined Alta when it was around 6 people, actually. Now it's around 150. So the reason I was joined is basically the CEO messaged me on LinkedIn, told me, "You want to build chatbots? You seem to have chatbot experience." My research back then, I was doing my master's degree in comp sci at the UFA, and like he told me, "You seem like a good candidate. Let's just interview." And I got the job. And like I kind of actually built a team just with chatbots. I kind of brought my couple of my friends from ComSci, and we actually built chatbots end to end, and like we delivered for a couple of clients. So that's how it started. But the business kind of expanded. And like they actually started in the domain of like applied AI consulting. So that got me exposed to a lot of other interesting projects within different industry, within different domains, specifically in natural language processing. That is how I got into the industry, actually.
Thank you for sharing that. So definitely a different path, but very interesting how you started so early with the team. So you must have come a long way, seeing how Alta ML has progressed over the years. What about Sheikh? How was your experience?
Yeah, so this has been very rewarding experience being in this AI. So I really find that working with the data and finding the insight is very helpful. And I'd like to share, you wanted to go over some of the tips, right, on the career, or you?
Just like, I guess, just quickly describe how you ended up in AI and like just did any previous career choices like lead you to where you are today?
Yeah, so in my first 10 years at IBM, I was primarily focused on building a search engine technologies, right? So basically, in the search engine, you bring data from many different sources and help with searches, right? But then when you have a lot of search results, how do you find the one you're looking for? So you naturally progress from search engine to machine learning. Using the machine learning technique, you can quickly discover the insights that you're interested in. So it has been very rewarding experience. And the last 5-7 years, we've seen a lot of frameworks for machine learning coming up that makes a lot of the machine learning and AI much accessible. So I did my first machine learning graduate course in 2012. At that time, it was not that easy to learn a lot of things, right? And it was not that popular. But now you can just write a few lines of code and you can build a very basic model in no time. So I think this is a very exciting time to step into this machine learning field.
Yeah, for sure. Machine learning from when you started, it seems to be a much newer concept. So definitely it's still quite a new concept. We'll explore some of the trends that's present nowadays, but I guess thank you guys for sharing that. And then the next question is for Dahlia. So what has your experience been like being a female in the AI field? And are there any advice for girls interested in a career in AI? Because me, myself, I'm definitely interested. So I would love to hear some of the advice you have.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. That is a good question. So personally, my experience, I've been fortunate enough to study and work in an environment where the ratio of male female was proportional. But that being said, if we look at stats and in general trends, we still do see women in technology specifically being underrepresented. Also, in terms of candidates that are applying, we see more males. Now, that could be due to the women's self-identification with math and sciences being lower than that of men, which is kind of true because when I picked my undergrad major, I remember, it has never occurred to me to apply for a computer science or engineering program. I did economics. I loved it, but I was never exposed to it. So, and then it was only later, and here, I come back to what Sheikh was saying at the time in 2012, it was still something that's new, right? So my own personal experience is I finished, and then I went to work to an insurance company, and I was learning about actuarial, and I bumped up into actuarial versus data science article. And that's where I heard about it. And so I learned programming on my own from scratch. So my advice to young girls, where if it's someone like you who already know I love this and you've been exposed to it and you like it and you're interested in a career, is just enjoy it, have fun, go for it, and keep doing what we're all doing, learning and meeting the community out there. That's great. But on the other hand, I am, so for young girls who are not exposed to this, and that was like my problem, I do want to share some optimism because I really see nowadays with two things. One is I see, first of all, in the workplace, there is a big trend into a gender equitable workforce. So for example, in my team, we're half-half, which is great. You are represented, you feel like you're part of it. So that's one. And then the other part is for young girls, for exposure. There are also a lot of initiatives like young girls, free online classes for programming for young girls. So I think we're heading into the good direction. But if you know that you want to do your career in AI, just go for it. And I think it's the right time for us to be out there, and if we like that field, just do it. That's my advice. Just do it.
That's very good advice. Just do it. So for any girls that are interested in AI, I'm sure there's quite a bunch in our audience today. So definitely feel free to reach out to anyone afterwards as well. I'm sure Dahlia would be delighted to chat.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I just also want to hear a little bit from Jenny. How has your experience been regarding this matter?
Thanks, Lisa, and thanks, Dahlia. I really like what you're saying. 100% echoing what you're saying. Just go for it. So, in terms of Lisa's question, my experience, it really depends on which company and which department I'm at. I do have experience with quite a few different companies, and the vibe can be very different. So, I do have experience that's more positive, depending on which company. Which I'm not going to name those companies, but some are a little bit not as good, and it depends on if the company kind of has the culture of diversity and also a culture of gender equality. So I'm not going to lie, depends on your where you work at, but it also means that don't settle. Very important to find a company that aligns with your core value and treats you right, because it's possible that some of the firm, it can be still very old school, thinking, oh, male are better at math, which is so untrue. That's totally not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot of very brilliant women out there and shining in this field. So if you are interested in entering this field, don't get discouraged by the noise of some people's opinions. Sometimes it can be coming from people who you love, can be from your family, and it's just people might have a little bit of old school understanding of how what are the things female are supposed to be good at. Don't get discouraged by that. Believe in yourself and just do it. And in this field, try to be visible and never stop learning. Whether you are a male, female, and this is going to be true. Don't stop learning, and that's how you're going to shine in this field. And for me at the moment, just because I'm involved in like hiring people a lot for my team as well, we definitely try to hire. Trying to give a female candidate the opportunities that we don't want to like discourage people from applying and from like joining us. But having said that, it's actually really challenging. Really challenging to recruit female candidate. We are competing with companies like, for example, like Facebook, who have big name there, who are able to attract a lot of really good, really bright and smart young girls. So definitely from the team lead side of view, we really wanting to get the females to join us, really smart girls. So you just need to apply and need to know that we also really want you to join us. So that's from me.
Thank you, Dalia and Jenny, both of you, for providing such great insight from your personal experience as well. So I guess next question is more about, so how is AI used in your companies for each of our panelists? We can start with Sheikh.
So we have AI primarily in, these are applied in many different ways, but the two primary categories are, we are bringing AI to our defined products. Let's take the example of my product, which is a database, right? In database, you have different database operations, right? Traditionally, the database community has implemented the logic in just a static rule. Take, for example, the resource estimations for the queries, the SQL queries that are coming to the database. You have a bunch of queries, so you need to know how much each query is going to consume when you execute this query, how much memory each query is going to take, right? Traditionally, the database community has written a sort of rules just to do a guess estimate that this memory is going to take 5 megabyte of memory, right? Things like that. But often these heuristics are not accurate. When you apply these heuristics of variety of business domains and things like that, so it's not accurate. So what we have been doing in a research project that I'm managing, we are applying machine learning technique, which is actually giving much better estimations for memory. So what does it mean? If you can more accurately estimate each query's resource requirements, you can actually execute more queries together. That means you are going to be able to process more queries faster, so your system throughput will be improved. So this is the first category, an example that we're bringing machine learning capabilities to our products to make the products smarter. Second one is that we have a lot of customers who are using our products for storing data, building end-to-end machine learning model and deploying it. We're also bringing machine learning capabilities for supporting end-to-end machine learning workflow, building, deploying, monitoring, things like that.
Yeah, both are really relevant and really good use of AI. Next, Shashank, what's your views?
At Facebook, I think AI is used quite heavily in at all sorts of levels. So for example, my team is the AI research team. Our work is more academic. So we are concerned with trying to answer research questions and publish papers, which is maybe not directly relevant to Facebook's business. But then there is another team called Facebook Applied AI Research Team, which sort of takes like research from the AI research team as well as from elsewhere and tries to integrate like new models, new approaches into Facebook's products. Other than that, of course, there's the data science team, which like a regular data science team, like they go through all the data that comes in from Facebook's different products, try to analyze those, try to use those to drive business decisions. And recently, I don't know if some of you guys saw it, but Facebook is like pushing towards AR and VR. So there's also Facebook Reality Labs, which works on AR and VR, and they're also AI is heavily used. For example, a use case could be going from a single view of a person to multiple views or a 3D view, stuff like that. So I'd say it's used in almost all products and all areas, and it depends on whatever you're interested. You can find a good fit for yourself.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. What about Dalia? How is Bell using AI?
There are many use cases for AI in Bell. I don't know where to start, but I'll start with my own experiences and projects that I've worked on. Mainly, mainly is we have a problem statement, and we want to leverage all these machine learning and AI algorithms to either find a solution or predict something. So usually it's either between, okay, if there's something wrong, can we implement an algorithm that would tell us what is wrong instead of spending manual investigation? So we're mostly focused on automating these processes. That's one part of it. And then the other part, and there's one project that I have worked on with Hitav here that was specifically tackling that project. And so the way we go about is we do some proof of concepts, and if we see there is value in it, then we try to make it generic and apply it for different other problems. And so that's one field of it is data mining, I'd call it, or automating exploratory analysis and speeding up these processes using machine learning. The other part that's also heavily used is prediction, of course. So could be well, I will not be sharing any specific details, but in general, we're using testing different time series predictions to be able to predict future trends in our data and be able to assist business in making decisions. So the whole use of AI ML needs to be really tailored towards how do we improve customer experience and assist executives to make better business decisions or more informed business decisions. And that's why as there is some creativity involved in the work, and that's why we are scientists, because we need to test several methods and approaches and come up with the best one that can be generalizable. And I hope that makes sense. It's a bit broad, but that's how we use it based on my experience. Yeah.
For sure, that's very you categorized it quite well. For sure, yeah. So what about Mansoor? How is Alta ML using AI?
Oh, that's a great question. Actually, Alta ML is an applied consulting company, so we don't have any products. So the other companies that usually they have a specific products and try to optimize it somehow using AI, machine learning. But what we do is basically companies come to us, different industries, different domains, and they usually have a business problem. And we try to see if we can use machine learning to solve that business problem using machine learning. And usually there's a process that they go through. We do a little bit of feasibility analysis. We see, okay, do they have the right data? Is the problem has like a good business value? So what if we build a model? Is it going to generate enough money, ROI for them or not? So there's a lot of stuff like has to be done before move to the AI. Once we move to the machine learning side of it, we do a 3 months model development. So machine learning engineers do all the EDA and like the model training and evaluation, and we try just to present the results to them. And if they're satisfied, we try to integrate that model or whatever that we create at the end with their basically their infrastructure, just to be able to solve those business problems. The good thing is like you get to work with a lot of different clients. So far within 4 years, I've worked on 20 different projects. Some of them were like as long as like 1 month, some of them were as long as 1 year actually. It's like, and you get to work on multiple projects. I worked in projects related to finance, insurance, forestry, a lot of different industries. So that's a good thing about UltraML. You can work on you can see the different domains and how AI can be applied on those industries. I think Jenny might have more info on that one.
Yeah, for sure, Jenny. Feel free to add.
Yeah, like Mansell pretty much just described everything. And in terms of application, there's like actually there's no limit. Like if I'm just thinking out loud now, so like inventory optimization and also like pipeline integrity, anomaly detection, and sentiment analysis. Like Mansell, for example, is an expert in NLP and responsible AI. A lot of things there. So for us, there's no limit, and there's no limit on which company and which industry that we work with.
Yeah, for sure. You guys are bringing AI to consulting, so definitely see a lot of use cases. Next question is, what does a typical workday look like for you? Which is probably what a lot of the participants here in the call are wondering. Like, what is your day, daily tasks? What do you do every day? Let's start with Jenny, so going backwards.
For sure. So mine, I guess, will be a little bit different because at least half of my time is on meetings, which is like a lot of time. My time is trying to understand the business value and also like engage with the clients. And in terms of my team, of course, provide some professional technical leadership to my team. I do still do code reviews, so I don't really write those codes myself, but I'm still involved in the code review side of thing. Or if my team's stuck somewhere, I'll be like involved there. And also very importantly, continuously reading and learning. And for now, I'm focused a little bit more on learning the responsible AI kind of thing. So still some paper readings there for me. In terms of my team, not one day is the same, but a lot of time will be spending on not just the research and technical side of things, but really understand they need to understand the domain knowledge from the use case that they are working on as well. So being able to communicate well with the clients or with your teammates becomes very important. So I guess I help with some of the questions, but I'll pass this back to Lisa.
For sure. Yeah, no, for sure. Mr., do you have anything to add?
My experience is pretty much the same. But it might be nice just to talk about, like, let's say some of the interns who work in my team. It would be nice, like, to have like what do they experience. So basically, when they join the team, we try to assign them to any kind of projects that we are working on. At the same time, like at one moment, we may be working on like 6 different projects, and based on their experience and like their skill sets, they will be assigned to one team. Once they join, we try just to give them the whole picture. What is the business problem? And like we brainstorm in a couple of sessions just to see what techniques we want to use, what models do we want to use, how do you want to evaluate the systems, like all these things. So they get to get exposed to all these interesting stuff. There's a lot of brainstorming before we start the projects. Once they start building, like writing the code, so there's like a daily stand-ups actually that we do. Basically, that is the like kind of like for the agile methodology for the software development. That is the technique that we use. They get to work with different technologies and different libraries, and they get to code and like run the experiments and like train models, evaluate them. And like usually more senior people try just to supervise and help them during the process, like things like code review and all that stuff. That's like an experience, like a new person that comes to UltraML.
Right, that's very detailed. Thank you so much. What about Dahlia? How is your day looking like?
Mm-hmm. Yes, my day is, so we have a scrum meetings. So we start the day with a scrum meeting, and we set the tone. What's everyone working on? Just to set the expectations. If anyone needs help with anything, because we have in the team, there are, my manages different projects, and sometimes, actually, a lot of the time, we have to work together. So that part I absolutely love. It's like our daily, meetup. Let's get things done. And then the rest of the day is two things. I get to focus on my coding where I have my time alone. But a lot of the time, I'm in between meetings with interdepartmental teams. The reason why is because whatever we're building is going to be used by an end user, the business. And so we always need to meet up with them and ensure that they are in line with what we are producing to them, and so that they can consume that product efficiently and the way they want to. So I'd say that's my day. And aside from my 2 cups of coffees a day, that's it. That's my work day. Yeah.
Thank you. That sounds very interesting. And last but not least, we have Sheikh. How does actually no? I totally skipped Shashank. Sorry, Shashank. I know your experience might be a little bit different because you're more on the research side in the industry. But so what does your day look like?
Yeah, I think my experience is somewhat different because my work is like more academic, I would say. So it depends on where in the research cycle I am. I would say there is like 3 distinct parts. One would be like just brainstorming. So this is the part where I'm reading through papers, trying to identify gaps in the current state of our knowledge and trying to find out what I could work on if I were to answer a good research question. So brainstorming could like last like from like a few weeks to a few months, depending on how experienced the researcher is. I've noticed like experienced researchers are really good with coming up with questions, whereas I am not. And then the second phase, which I would say is the longest phase, sorry, would be the experimentation phase. This is the point where I'm implementing my models, training my models, running experiments, trying to see if they work, if they don't work, making changes to my models based on that. So this lasts anywhere from like 3 to 4 months to a year. And the last part is the presentation phase where I'm writing my paper, and if the paper is accepted, I'm communicating my paper to other people through posters and talks and such. So yeah, it depends on where I am in the process. But other than that, there's a few things which I try to do frequently is sort of stay in touch with the literature, try to attend talks where other people present their work or talk about a subject which I'm not very familiar with. It's good to have an overview from someone who is an expert. So yeah, that's what my day-to-day looks like.
Thank you. Yeah, it definitely offers a different perspective. I know like definitely a lot of people are also interested in the research side within industry, so offers good insight. Sheikh, what's your day? What does your day look like?
My day start from the previous evening when I spend maybe 5 to 10 minutes just to review my calendar, what's on my calendar for tomorrow. Then if I see that I don't have any morning meeting, I would normally block maybe first 2.5 hours to 3 hours on my calendar. At that time, I know that there is nothing pressing, no meeting, I'm not expected to respond. So and then that's how my morning starts. So I would go to my treadmill, walk for 20 minutes, and the 20 minutes I also listen to maybe some audiobook or maybe watching some Coursera course, So I just do double tasking there. After that, next 2 hours roughly, I don't check my emails, nothing, no meeting, anything. I just focus on some learning and also maybe working on my most important task of the day. So I would do some coding or some learning before I check my email, I check my voice message or anything, my cell phone is disconnected. So then after I finish my learning and then working on my maybe one most important piece of the work, then maybe I'll come online, I'll check my Slack messages or my inbox, right? Then I'll get plugged into this. But I like to spend clear mind to work on most important thing. Then I would get into meetings, then stand-ups, some brainstorming, right? So doing day-to-day things. So I think the morning thing that really helped me, that I have done something significant for the day. Right?
Yeah, for sure. So a common theme that I'm getting from everyone is definitely learning every day. So I guess learning definitely never ends, but also everyone also blocks off time for their own work, and it's definitely very productive. So next question is for Dalia. So how does a company or a research lab establish a non-biased data set? Oh, Dalia, you're muted.
Oh, that's an excellent question. It's a very good question. And, you know, there are a lot of research on this topic, and I don't know, maybe Shashank have bumped into some. And it's very important. It doesn't only apply to gender bias, but also ethnic biases as well, and particularly in NLP, natural language processing applications and word embeddings, because what happens is the algorithms representing words into vectors, vector representation, and the way it learns these embeddings is on large amount of data, such as, I don't know, Google News, Wikipedia, the Web Common Crawl. Sometimes we have some trained word embedding trained on Twitter data. And if there is bias in the training data, then the bias is carried over in those word representations, and the algorithm might be biased. So the research that is being done, it's been a topic of interest for quite some time, is debiasing these algorithms. So you take those word representation that the algorithm learned from us, the internet, and then you'd apply another algorithm on top of it to debias these word representations. It's a very interesting topic, and a few years ago, I did a replication of a paper on debiasing algorithms, specifically regarding that question. And I invite you to take a look at it. If you go to my GitHub, you'll see, and I did it with Anika Tabassum. And it's a great paper. It's just one of the suggested debiasing algorithms that can be used as a step before you start working on your modeling, your main modeling. You got to debias first, and then do your modeling, so that any input that's coming into the algorithm is debiased. Yeah, I hope that makes sense a little bit, but there is a lot of research in that. That's an excellent question. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's not something that you can, just say this is how you do it. But like it's definitely, I've heard a lot about it over the years. So definitely it's a very important issue that a lot of people are addressing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but from a company and lab perspective, it's looking at additional ways to debias a biased data set. That's because if it's a biased data set, it's a biased data set. Then you want to find a way to debias it, and there is a lot of research on that topic, and algorithms and tools that you could use. Yeah,
right. You can't do better than your biased data set.
Yeah.
So yeah, if any other panelists have any additional things to add on top of this, feel free to.
I think Mansour, do you want to tackle this one in terms of responsible AI, or I have something as well?
Sure. Like the issue of bias in AI is like a never ending thing, because at the end of the day, data, like machine learning is just an algorithm that reads your data. And if your data is biased, definitely your machine learning model will be biased. There is a lot of techniques specific to different domains like NLP, CV, or Tableau data sets. Like there's a lot of techniques you can use to de-bias it based on the definition of bias. But like one of the most important things is basically how does the model get used? So you probably remember there was like a machine learning model that Amazon built for recruiting systems, and it was heavily biased towards women. Like it got rejected women, and that is why you have to be careful. Like bias will be there. There are techniques that you can resolve it, but at the end of the day, you have to be careful. If the machine makes it like a very definitive decision, very important decision, it has to be monitored by humans just to make sure it's not that. At least for fields like you can the researchers and techniques that are very live but can come in and they say this is how you remove the bias, and it kind of tricky because how do you define bias? It gets a controversial thing, right? But I think one of the most important is you have to be if the model goes into production and it's being heavily used and for important decision, it has to be monitored and it has to be supervised by humans. That's one technique that I could think of to actually resolve this thing.
Yeah, and I also want to add that there are actually quite a lot of tools from large corporation like Microsoft has a tool called FairLearn, and I think there's Google also has What If tool, and there are quite a few others. IBM has the Fairness 360, I believe. So quite a few tools that are currently being developed and also being used in some projects by people to help with identify some of the bias in the data set and identify some of the bias in the model, as well as trying to mitigate some of the bias. But there's no way you can actually guarantee you can 100% remove the bias, and that's why the communication with the end users and in between the developer teams becomes important, knowing that the bias is there and being able to kind of acknowledge that just because it's a machine learning model doesn't mean it doesn't contain human bias, because a lot of data that's there are bias, and it's not just it's not just because it's model, so there's bias. A lot of bias comes from the data set itself, and like Lisa, you're saying, and being able to acknowledge that and communicate those in the communication, and also let the end user knows becomes very important.
Right. So yeah, you definitely consider what the model is being used for, and there's a lot of tools out there that you can use. Yeah, for sure. So I guess, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. So as Jenny has mentioned, IBM has products and technologies that actually help with this bias mitigation. It's very important for priority for IBM as well. So we have created products, commercial products, as well as we have created an open source toolkit called AI Fairness 360, which is a open source toolkit that is based on Python. Anyone can use it. The way it works, it focuses on mitigating the bias on the input. So even before you train a model, as Delia was mentioning, there's another approach that you have input data. How can you compute the fairness metrics and you can mitigate this bias? So using this toolkit, you can debias it. And then also we have a product called Watson Open Scale, which means that you build a model, you train your model is now generating predictions. Now that toolkit can also help with monitoring the output. So we get things covered from end to end, also the input and also the output. And we have a lot of content and technological assets created on mitigating the bias from IBM. So it's very important priority for us.
Yeah, for sure. Very good insights you're sharing. So I guess that concludes our topic 1. It's quite a long topic. The other ones will be shorter, but I guess we can move on to topic number 2, which is just explore some different paths in the industry. So the first question is for Mansoor. What are the key differences between working at an AI startup versus at an established tech giant?
To be clear, I've never worked at a tech giant, at least in the machine learning or even software side of it. So I can give you my experience and make some assumptions, like kind of try to compare them with the big tech giants. So basically, when you join any startup, you get to work on a lot of different things, not only ML, things like DevOps, things like software engineering, a lot of different things. Because the team is limited, you get to wear multiple hats. You get exposed to different things. You have to help the BD team figure out the stuff like about like what is the business value. You have to help the DevOps team sometimes just to be able to move the code to the production, move them all to production. You have to do your machine learning and data science stuff. So my experience, basically, I got to learn a lot within these 4 years that I worked at a startup. And I'm not sure if it's the same experience at a big tech giant, but definitely when you join a big tech giant, there is one small specific problem that you have to work on. So you have to kind of work on a specific feature on, like, let's say, Google Docs, and try to apply some ML techniques just to improve that features. That's a great experience and it's a huge impact, but you don't get exposed to different domains within the company. And like, I think a good thing about working at a startup is like you get to be agile and you get to learn a lot more. And that could be rewarding in the early career, because you definitely, like, AI is like a big thing, right? But you may be interested in other things like software engineering. You may be like move around like to different others like ML ops or like DevOps or other things. So working at a startup as a tech startup, gives you the ability just to work on all these things and see, like, get a picture of all of those things. It can get better career paths down the way when you want to like move to your next career.
Yeah, that sounds very accurate. If other people on the panel wants to jump in on the question, feel free. I know we have representatives on both sides, tech giants and startups. So
I can make some comments because I work with one of the tech giants, IBM. So, the opportunity I see there are many different product teams. So I get the opportunity to work with many of them. So, for example, I'm part of the database product team. So we're working on AI. Then I have peers from other product teams who are doing federated learning, or there's platform for building machine learning model, deploying machine learning model. So I get to work with a lot of smart people across the board. And there are also research divisions in IBM who are actually separate from the engineering project. So they are also looking into more challenging things. They are creating artifacts. So I get to work with them and find out how to bring those research assets to products and make it commercialize it, right? So I think there are a lot of various of products. So there is never ending. So I don't feel bored. I get to learn from a lot of many people, different people. So that's and also there are a lot of learning opportunities. So in fact, I did my a master's when I was working full-time at IBM, and then I continued to do my PhD. So it's fully funded by my company. So there are a lot of learning opportunities I got from my employers. I'm very thankful to them. So,
yeah, since you're here right now, Sheikh, we might as well just proceed on to the next question as well. Kind of ties into this. So, how important is post-grad studies in AI career, and do you have any advice for current undergrads to choose any like post-grad programs?
Yeah, so postgraduate is master's or PhD. So my feeling is that it's helpful, but it's not essential. I was just checking out this year's Kaggle data science surveys, which is a survey among 25,000 machine learning engineers and data scientists. So 30% of them, they don't have any postgraduate degrees. I mean, they just have bachelor. And I also worked with some of the smarter data scientists in IBM. They came from completely non-engineering background, no data science or computer science background. They learned. So I don't think this is not having this postgraduate degree is a barrier to build a very strong career in data science and AI. But I started doing PhD 2 years ago at York. What I'm getting from there. So I have two primary responsibilities. I lead engineering projects, and then I also manage some research projects. So I see that my training from this higher degrees, right, master's and PhD, that actually improves my analytical skill. That gives me a different lens to analyze the problem, and then also do independent research. So I always wanted to build a career which has both engineering responsibilities and also the research. So as I am now managing my research project, I see I'm more engaged with them. So I can formulate the research problems. I can think, I can read research papers better, I can write research papers. So I think this research aspect that on the analytical skill that really helped me, right, with this PhD or master's. But if someone does not want to go there, there are plenty of resources to learn, pick up data science skills or build very good data science skills. So I think they don't necessarily need to go for higher degree, right, for getting there.
Yeah, for sure. And Shashank, you can comment a little bit because you're in the research side. So what are some key differences between AI research and AI engineer careers?
So this is my view. The engineering projects is normally your problem is fairly defined, and then you know how to solve it. I'm not probably oversimplifying this. There is still challenges, but this challenge can be solved by engineering approach. You can time box it. Yeah, we're going to do some feature development in the next 2 to 3 months, or So but the research problem is quite unknown. You really don't know what kind of algorithm will fit into there. How do you solve this problem? It's largely unknown. So that's why that's qualified for research. To give you a concrete example, that 4 years ago, I was leading a research project. The problem was, how can we develop a machine learning framework, machine learning based framework that can help with coming up with labels. For supervised machine learning model, you need labeled examples. But if your data set does not have labels, or your labels is not trustworthy, how do you improve the quality of the labels? I don't think this can be an engineering project that you give a set of engineers to build a solution that can provide the labels, right? First, because it needs research, you need to understand this problem. You need to explore different kind of algorithms, how you can solve this. So you cannot really time box this. So this kind of thing, which is open-ended, I think is a better fit for a research project. Whereas pretty much your path, there will be some challenges. You can time box it. That would be better fit for engineering project. And also engineering project, you need to put timeline, because you have a release cycle. You need to finish the coding. You need to go through QA and release the product feature. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, for sure. And Shashank was saying earlier as well that he has strict he works more in the AI research rather than engineers. So Shashank, do you have anything to comment?
I think I'll just concur with what Sheikh said before. So research is more of trying to answer the unknown. So you come up with a research question, you come up with an experiment plan to answer that question, and then you communicate your research. On the engineering side, I would say there's two distinct aspects in AI. So one is a machine learning engineer, who is someone who's responsible for taking machine learning methods and data sets and putting into production to sort of build products for a company's business use case. So if I were to give an example, an ML engineer at, say, Airbnb, they might be responsible for building a pipeline that detects objects in the listings and trying to come up with a description of the place automatically. That could be something an ML engineer would do. Then there are also research engineers, which I find are often either at larger companies or smaller startups, which are entirely focused on the tech. So a research engineer is involved with developing the infrastructure and the software platforms to do research. For example, at Facebook, someone who is working on the PyTorch library, they are research engineers. Or say, for example, at NVIDIA, someone developing the CUDA libraries could be research engineers. So there's two distinct types of engineering in AI. And yeah, I think that's all the difference there is to it. Science projects are like often longer term, and they might not often even lead into good results. So the gratification time and results are kind of uncertain there. Engineering projects are much more concrete and much more real world and much more useful to the business use case of the company.
Right, definitely two different sides. So we are we just have a couple more questions on like topic 3, so we can go on to number 3. Just gonna skip a few questions that are similar that we've already covered. So we're gonna jump into some tips and advices for current undergrads. So what are some practical advice that you would give out to someone starting their career in AI? Sheikh, you can comment on this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would give 3 advices. But this is based on my experience and trying out different things. The very first advice I will give someone who is starting their career in AI and machine learning is first find a good mentor. So someone who has experience with delivering or being part of some successful machine learning projects. Connect with such a person and take their advice with selecting your learning path. Okay, so I've been in this field, as I mentioned, in machine learning more than 5 years. So I have taken many online courses, education, and practical projects experiences. So also I have learned from mentors. So I would think that everything I have taken online or books, it's everything that I can put 50% of my current insights on machine learning comes from that. And then other 50% came from a single person who was my first machine learning mentor. So you see that the value is much greater. And I was meeting that mentor once a month for 30 minutes to 60 minutes and just occasionally sending messages via Slack. But the value you see that it's much greater. So that person helped me with finding the right career path, and I learned a lot of insights. So I will emphasize connecting with an experienced mentor who knows the machine learning well. The second advice, I would say that if you want to take some online courses or machine learning books, I have actually written a blog post where I shared some of the materials that I found useful. I think I shared this with Lisa.
Yeah, I'm just gonna send it in the chat real quick, so those that want to take a look.
Yeah. So both mentorship and learning, online courses, this falls under the learning part. Second thing, once you have learned it, you need to put this into use. So if you don't apply it in some projects at work or even your personal project, chances are you'll forget this very soon. So I would suggest find the opportunity to apply this skill, whatever you have learned from courses or books, and just put this to use. The third thing I would suggest that make it consistently write some blog post or share your code with the world. That will help with cementing this knowledge or insight you learn. So you can always go back what you have learned, you have written, and also this will build your reputation as an expert in this field. So that is very important for building a successful career. So these are kind of 3-part advice I would have: learn, apply, and share.
Those are some very great advice. So anyone wants to check out more details of what Sheikh said, there's the article that he wrote. I sent it in the chat.
Sorry, if I may just make another quick comment, I forgot. So on the learning part, I would also suggest not to forget the business skills, because just having the technical skill is not sufficient. So those who are interested, when I finished my 15-year career at IBM, I actually wrote a blog post on LinkedIn that says the 15 business skills I learned from my 15 years at IBM. So I'm happy to share with Lisa. I kind of shared the 15 business skills that I found very valuable and what are the things that I learned there. So
yeah, we can share it with the rest of, well, everyone that signed up for this event as well. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so moving on to our very last topic, which is probably what everyone's the students are very interested in. So it's recruitment. let's start with Dahlia. So what impresses you the most when you are considering hiring someone? Or what do you think your firm or team values the most in the recruiting process?
Yeah, I'm going to make it short and sweet. So I'd say three things that are coming on my mind is, aside from the technical skills, someone who's able to do the day-to-day job, it would be curiosity and someone who's able to pick up and learn fast, but especially curiosity, creativity, because we are scientists, right? And we want to be able to propose solutions, and that's something that I really like personally about my company, is that they're always welcoming of new ideas, fresh ideas. So that's this. And the third part is communication, because practically, you're you're going to be communicating with different levels of um, of of employees, of colleagues. Some are data science specific, and then they'll ask you questions specifically to the algorithm and how it's working. And then other questions would be coming from the business. Okay, great. You did I don't know, convolutional neural net. How does it help us? So this communication is really important. So to make it short and sweet, I'd say these three, and of course, enthusiasm. that's what I'd say. Yeah.
Thank you, Dahlia. Shashank, anything you think you want to add on to what Dahlia said?
So I haven't really been involved with recruiting. I would let Jenny or Mansoor comment on it. I feel they would have much better insights than I have.
Yeah, for sure. So for my part, if we're hiring a technical role, of course, you will have to have a certain degree of technical ability. We don't expect you coming knowing everything, because it is that's sort of an expectation. You come in with a bit of technical ability to solve some challenges. So there might be some coding exam or like project you will have to be able to solve and work on before you will be bringing for an interview. In terms of interview, I hire for diversity. So if I already have a team that's very strong in technical skill sets, I might be willing to bring in someone who's stronger in communication, get along with everyone else, even though the technical skill isn't like the best in the team. So my advice is that if you are strong, as long as you are strong in something for my team, I'll try to match you to work with someone who might you might be able to complement each other. But just kind of echo what Dahlia is saying. For me, I do really value technical ability, the willingness to learn, and the ability to learn a lot. But just seeing how other team lead, other managers hire, I do see a lot of people, they might not be able to even pass the HR stage if your communication skill is not there. So I understand. I mean, a lot of us, we come into engineering not because we are like the best presenter out there, not because we are the best marketing person out there. So it is okay. I understand that that's something that's difficult, but it's really hard for you to even impress the recruiter, the first stage there. So definitely emphasize on the importance of communication skills, and also eventually you have to work with your team, right? Having the communication skills is really going to be really helpful for you to do well in your interviews.
For sure, and like personal experience or just from your mentors has also said like these soft skills can also be practiced. So like, you do a lot of mock interviews or just practice answering these type of questions would definitely help as well. I guess, is there anything that Mr. and Sheikh would want to add on?
So with regard to this recruitment, which means how can we increase the chance of getting hired? So I would emphasize that maybe consider having your own Git repo, and as well as also maybe your personal website, which is your profile. You kind of showcase your skills and things that you have done, and also improve your LinkedIn profile. Add as much details as possible. get recommendations from your peers and your others you have worked with. These are really important these days, so that people would like to get as much information as possible about you before they interview you. Right?
I want to emphasize LinkedIn one. So all the points that the people said like was great, but I want to emphasize the LinkedIn one. That is how I got my job. Basically, two of the jobs that I worked, all of them I got from LinkedIn. So being active in LinkedIn, having a good profile, a complete profile is important. Also being active in the community, trying just to get engaged with the people. So if you want to go work for a company X, one strategy is like go see who are the similar people working at the same role that you want to apply for. Try to communicate with them, try to understand what is the requirement for this role, how could you get the role, what are the what things you need to improve upon, and you'll be surprised how helpful people will be. Not all the time, but most of the time they're very helpful, and they can help you actually get into the company. That is actually a lot of my colleagues that I actually recruited. Some of them actually reached out to me before they were in it, and I tried to help them as much as possible, just for the interview process. And it's pretty much the same thing. LinkedIn is a very, very powerful tool you can use to get a job.
Definitely, yeah. Leverage your the tools and the network that you have for sure. I guess that concludes our panel discussion for the pre-prepared questions. So we're gonna open it up to live Q&A. I'm just gonna pass it on to Julia to take any questions. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Lisa, for organizing this event and putting this all together. And thank you for our panelists that offered so many insights. I learned so much during these discussions. And now for our attendees, feel free to type in any question that you have towards any of the panelists, or you can raise your hand and then we can unmute to talk about what questions you have. And I actually have a question for Sheikh, if I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yes.
So when you're offering the tips, you mentioned that it's very important to have some hands-on applications. So I was just wondering, how can students gain hands-on experience working on an ML project without being part of a particular company? Are there any competitions or teams you joined as a student that help to build your skills in AI or ML?
Yeah, so there are many open source repositories, such as you can find a machine learning problem. So on Kaggle, you can go to OpenML. So these are the repositories where you can see some machine learning data sets and the problems. You can you can just start practicing your data science skills right from there. And with regard to, I will also emphasize that right today, I mean, the phase of maturity we're in now, just having the modeling skill is not sufficient. You also need to build your skills on the entire ML pipeline, which is ML ops, the discipline is now called. So you can just start your own ML ops project. So there are many open source, the different ML ops experts, they have put together their code examples in open source repositories, so in GitHub. So you can actually just practice all these things, and you make it working. You try to understand this, and whatever you're learning, you just document and share with others. So and it needs to be an ongoing process. Right.
Thank you. That's really helpful. An attendee messaged me asking, with more and more abstractions in the field of AI, it's easy to start of an AI, but it also makes it hard to differentiate. What do you do to set yourself apart in this industry? So at this time, any panelist can just hop in if they have any insights.
So I can add a little bit. So to set yourself apart, I really think, for example, especially during interviews, if you are a candidate and you tell me, you are passionate on this and you really enjoy learning, we all can say a lot of things, but you really have to prove it. How to prove it is really just back to what Sheikh was saying, have projects. You actually have to work on something. And if you have something either if you are very passionate in AI, if you are actually very passionate, you would have some project, and then you would have spent your weekend time. If that's something you love to do, you would have done it. So it doesn't matter of like what. So people can be really good at interviews and being really good at like selling what they are good at. But from my end, I need to see it. Like if you are passionate in this, you would have spent your time to work on some project, and that really sets you apart by comparing to people who have similar qualification. But if we have to decide in between the two, I definitely will probably give preference to people who actually are passionate enough to be willing to spend some time, either for example, join some hackathon, data zone, and things like that. That will really set you apart.
Thank you, Jenny. That's a really helpful answer. An attendee with a very long first name that I won't try pronouncing asked, I have a mechanical degree, but I want to continue in AI field, and what roadmap should I follow? And how can I combine mechanical engineering with AI? And thanks in advance.
If you want, I can share my thought on this.
Yeah.
So the very first thing is that you need the foundational skills, regardless of which industry you are focusing on. And that's when gaining the basic data science skills. I have suggested some of the path on my blog post, which is shared in the post. After that, you want to know what are some of the use cases that other people from mechanical engineering background has applied with, used with data science, right? So you can check out Google Scholar. I'm pretty sure if you search mechanical engineering and data science or AI machine learning, there's some combination of keywords. You'll come across some of the papers, some people from the mechanical engineering domain has applied. So you can see what people are doing, and that will expand the possibilities. You can come up with your own ideas that what others are doing in your particular discipline, right? With machine learning and AI. Not sure if that.
Definitely. I do think now, because like AI, I feel like it's going to be used in almost every single field. So that definitely applies to a lot of people. I see Dorje raised your hand. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, but go ahead.
No worries, no worries. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm Dorje. I'm in my final year at U of T. So yeah, just want to say thank you to all the panelists for coming today. Just have a quick question to Mansoor and to Jenny. So related to, I'm really interested in applied AI consulting, and from the recruiting perspective, do we have to undergo like the traditional style consulting case interviews that we see in like McKinsey or BCG, or is it more like a case that we see in like datathons that are, you know, more tech related? Yeah.
I can take a stab at it. So usually it's not. So we are more like applied consulting. So it like we heavily want some people who have some domain expertise, ideally, if they have experience. So maybe people like from oil and gas and like other, even mechanical engineering. So we had people like from different backgrounds, but who were like subject matter experts in their domain, and we needed them for a specific clients that we were working with. But the most important thing is like basically you have to have a decent ML knowledge to get into the field, and that is a very hard requirement. So we actually like a month ago, I actually interviewed like around 10 different interns, and almost for all of them, like the most important factor that we actually take into fact, like how technical they are, and like it's very important to do your homework on the technical side. You have to have the fundamentals of machine learning. If you do that and you have like a decent understanding of ML, definitely for like junior roles or intern roles, you'll have no problem getting to the like Alta ML. So it should be fine with that. But as I said, like it's very important to know the fundamentals. Like maybe like nobody will ask you like explain like a specific NLP technique for me, right? So it's very specific, but being able to just understand what is overfitting and how you can resolve it, this is like a very fundamental thing that applies to any machine learning problem. So you have to know like the fundamentals very well. Jenny, you want to add to it?
Yeah, like just a little bit on the hiring side of thing. You are expected to know the basic. We don't expect you coming like knowing everything about like deep learning and all of the most like advanced modeling things like that. But it makes it a lot easier for you to be up to speed as fast as possible when you're coming with that really strong fundamental knowledge. And from our end, it's also helpful if you have some say like either cloud computing or any kind of domain knowledge that anything you have is just extra bonus on it. But definitely focus on the fundamental side of thing. And for our company, we also kind of care about our the core values. So for us, it's like happy, greedy, humble, and agile. So you can use some examples either from your school project or past experience to demonstrate that you align with our core values. And so those are going to be helpful. But then like autonomous always hiring if you are actually very interested in specific rules, or if those positions are posted in the future, like feel free to even just reach out to Mansoor or I, and then we can also always like talk to our internal recruiter teams if there are any questions we are able to answer right now.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Jenny and Mansoor. Now I'll move on to another question that was direct messaged to me. So this attendee said, my question is there any way we can detect bias in data sets, especially the ones that can be found in the open source like Kaggle or other repositories? So if any panelist that wants to kind of talk about this biased data sets, feel free to do so.
Yeah, so I think back to a little bit to what we mentioned about there are quite a few tools. I know like the IBM 360 was the very first one there, but I think there are more than one tools that are able to help you to detect those bias. And even without using the tools, doing some basic statistics calculation, like if the the class distribution in your data is the same as in the real life, it's something that you can just simply test. If you are expecting like 50% of them should be female, but in your data set is only 20%, then you know there's going to be bias in your data, right? Utilize the tool is going to be helpful, but work with the domain expert people. They are able to actually verify with you and with those communication, are those data biased or not? Just because if it's just you yourself are utilizing the tools, sometimes you might miss some of the areas when you are like analyzing your data if there's bias there. And if in terms of the tools, I actually have a list of them. So feel free to like message me on LinkedIn or something. I can talk to you a bit more on that.
Thank you, Jenny.
I could add a quick point there.
Yes.
I definitely on the same line as Jenny, and also it really also depends on the application. So is the output of your algorithm being biased? If you see this, then that means that you have to go back to the data set and do some debiasing so that your input then can result in a more debiased results. So that also I want to specify is also how you're using this data and what is the output that's being generated, because this is going to be used for decisions, right? And so that's the main point there. Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you, Jenny and Dahlia. Unfortunately, we won't have any time for any more questions, but I am sure that the panelists would love to chat more offline. So any attendees that have more questions, feel free to connect with our panelists, and I'll pass it on to Lisa. Thanks again for all the answers that came from the panelists and all the questions from the attendees.
Thank you, Julia, for taking the questions. Yeah, so I just want to echo what Julia said. Thank everyone for coming. I don't want to keep the panelists longer here than what we asked for, but I'm sure everyone has busy days. So yeah, but yeah, I'm sure everyone would love to chat offline. So give our panelists a message, LinkedIn or email or whatever. I'm sure they're willing to chat. So that concludes our event. And caveat, do we have the like how to join UTMIST slide? Because that's the end for what we have today. But yeah, so we're gonna stay, so the UTMIST members will stay online for a little bit longer just to take any questions on how to join the clubs and whatnot. But yeah, so thank you panelists for coming in, and have a great day.
Yeah.
Good to be here. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Thank you.